Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next XPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
Hi there. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Africa's Next. My name is Delma Commons. Africa's Next is an initiative of Voice to the Nation and Bring the Silence organization that seeks to throw the spotlight on entrepreneurship as a developmental, industrialization, and continent building, and also as an advancement tool. Africa's Next is a special entrepreneur mentoring program that is set to mentor Africa's next superpower generation. We aim to achieve this by pairing seasoned entrepreneurs with a passion of Africa's development and advancement with up-and-coming entrepreneurs to provide direct mentoring and access to funding for the entrepreneurial endeavor. So I bring you an exciting interview today. And today on the show, we are speaking to one of the few individuals that I personally admire a lot. We call him the king of branding. He's a branding expert. He goes by the name Benjamin Iyan. His core focus is to utilize an insight-based approach in creating and inspiring his impactful work. He uses uncanny understanding of people as basis of influencing behavior change, and his experience spans digital, traditional, and also consultancy. He's an enthusiastic, creative, inspired by originality and ingenuity. He's relentless, proactive, and a strategic thinker with superb communication and interpersonal skills. He led a lot of creative teams in different agencies in Ghana and across West Africa to precise, as well with major brands likes of the MTN in Ghana and Liberia. Also worked with Airtel Tigo, worked with PZ Africa. I don't know PZ Africa, they're the producers of Premier, Canon, Venus, Joy, Bralada, Cousin Baby, and Our Morning Fresh. Also worked with Nestle West Africa, DSTV, Coca-Cola, Enterprise Group of companies, and a lot of companies. So this is the gentleman we are interviewing today on Africa's News. I promise you it's going to be an exciting interview, an in-depth one, of course, bringing you closer to entrepreneurs who have brought the spotlight onto the continent. We're going for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll get into our interview for today. Remember, you're still live on Africa's Next, and we are mentoring Africa's superpower generation. We want to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Break the Silence and Voice to the Nation. Also want to say a big thank you to the audience who have joined in. Remember to go to our various social media platforms, Facebook, our Instagram page, and also our YouTube pages. To go there, send us a message indicating the mentor you'd like to be paired with to learn from. When we come back from the quick commercial break, we speak to our guest for today, Mr. Benjamin Iyan. Quick commercial break, we're back after this.
Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next XPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
We're still live on Africa's Next. Today, as I promised you, it's going to be another exciting interview, and we are talking to Mr. Benjamin Iyan. Sir, good evening and welcome to Africa's Next.
Good evening, nice to be here.
Trust you're good.
Yes, very good. Good to be here.
Glad to have joined us, and also we are also grateful for availing yourself to mentor Africa's next superpower generation.
Awesome. I think it's a very laudable initiative. So it's my pleasure to play a role in however small way I can.
Tell us a bit about Mr. Benjamin Yang. Who is Mr. Benjamin Yang?
Oh, at least you got the name part sorted out, so that's fine. I work with Publicis West Africa. The thing with questions like "tell us about yourself" is it's about funding the things that are most important to you and that define who you are. So for me, in describing that, it's about being a father, a very proud father of a very cute little girl called Bella, and being very privileged to have the ability to create things and to write and to have a very curious outlook to things and to be able to imagine better ways of solving problems and to be able to provide value to the customers I work with, to the brands I come into contact with. And I have the privilege of doing that on a full-time basis with Publicis West Africa. But I'm also a very religious person, so I have a Christian blog called Golden Words. And it's the same mentality I apply there, which is take what may be a complex message and then express it in a very conversational way that makes it easy and engaging to everybody who's interested. So those are the key things I feel define me. Yeah.
Wow, that's very simple and also precise in depth. So let's begin our interview today. Where do you see Africa in the next 5 to 20 years regarding your industry as a branding expert?
That's a very tricky question, and it is as true to advertising as it is to the other creative arts industry. If you look at music, for example, you see, it's unfortunate, but you see that most of our popular musicians are from genres that aren't true to Ghana or Africa, like you have reggae music or dancehall. And I forget who said this recently, but he said he will understand why dancehall is Ghana's number one genre when he goes to Jamaica and he finds high life is their number one genre. It's a very interesting thing I saw. And it's true to advertising too, not just in Ghana, but in Africa, because we are still applying models and we are still applying techniques and measuring schemes that are more true and typical to Western societies than to Ghana and West Africa or Africa. So I feel like in the next 5, 10, 15 years, where we'll head towards is a place where we figure a way to communicate between brands and people in a way that's very true to the African context and not necessarily applying models that have been tried and tested in America and in Europe as well.
There were a lot of companies from Europe and USA who were practically handling adverts of the big companies in the African continent. What role is your industry playing to put Africa on the world stage in the 21st century?
Well, so there are two sides to your question, and I'll try to approach them distinctly. There is still the existence of multinational advertising companies in Ghana. Every major advertising company needs an international affiliation. It is a prerequisite even with major companies because it shows clout, it shows the ability to pull together resources, and it's become a quality control measure for consideration for certain kind of contracts. Now, in terms of what the industry is doing or can do to put Africa on the map in the coming years, it's really, really simple, which is the reason why I particularly am passionate about advertising because it is ubiquitous. It has implications for every industry. An advertising industry that is thriving has direct implications on every other sector because it means that we will have developed a very effective way of adding value to manufacturing, to commerce, to creative art, to every other industry, because our business is about making a proposition that is compelling for people to engage with. So the point where we are able to do it really well is the point where we start seeing how it impacts businesses, pan sectors, and lets them become even more profitable.
Wow, that's very detailed in there. We also would like to know the contribution entrepreneurs in the advertising industry to make sure Africa gets to the level that Africa needs to get to. The next level that I've been thinking about, the world stage of talking about, what are the major contributions in the entrepreneurs in the industry are putting together for Africa?
Well, you see, the construct of the industry is such that as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to build your business to a point where you have achieved enough to now be able to sit at a table with international players, in the sense that you have a lot of advertising is a very unique situation where two heads are better than one. So you have a lot of affiliations. There are quite a few in Ghana where a local entrepreneur has grown a business to a point as an independent local advertising agency, and then form meaningful partnerships with international franchises as a way of now being able to get more visibility across the region. So it's about, as a local entrepreneur, applying yourself in a way that allows you to build a business that puts you in a position where now when you have that partnership with a partner that gives you that sort of leverage, you're able to optimize it and present the same solution at a magnified scale.
You have been talking a lot about we having a collaboration with international corporations when it comes to advertising. One of the major things that makes this very possible is technology. What major role has technology played in your industry?
Technology is fundamental to advertising.
Wow.
It's fundamental because effective advertising is about behavioral change. And behavioral change is only possible when you're able to understand people, the reason they do things they do, track the change in the behavior, and implement things and monitor how it's working. And data is at the center of this. To be able to tell that this kind of person uses this kind of device and has this kind of taste preference, to be able to follow him on his user journey as he wakes up in the morning and the kind of technology he accesses, and therefore be able to customize your messaging at the correct time where he needs to hear something in particular, means that technology is critical. And to be able to gauge his response well enough and therefore be able to tell whether the return on your investment is high or not, to be able to appreciate the actual impact of your messaging, you need technology. You need to be able to apply technology to get an accurate sense of the impact of your communication. So both from the strategizing stage through to conceptualization stage, through to implementation and then monitoring and evaluation, there's technology at each step of the way that's critical.
What can be done to better technology to promote the industry?
I think that there needs to be a lot of education because there's often misunderstanding or misapplication of technology in terms of how it's supposed to be used to create the optimum impact. So I feel there's a great need for more education. And there's also the case where there's a lag between when industry players adopt technologies and when their consumers already have. Many times the consumers lead that conversation, but it should be the reverse. So there should be a greater openness to new technology from even the industry itself, and embracing it proactively to lead the narrative even before the consumer starts making demands.
Let's talk about your present company. What is the aim for Publicis West Africa relating to Africa as a whole? And at point in time, you're limited to Ghana, but let's talk about Africa as a whole. What is the dream from Publicis Africa, West Africa to Africa as a whole?
Well, Publicis West Africa is a regional advertising agency because our main client, which is Nestle not in Ghana alone, but in the 22 markets in West Africa. So when we talk of brands like Nido and Milo and Cerelac, we're not just talking about it in the Ghanaian context. We're talking about it in the Nigerian context, in the Francophone context, in the rest of the Anglophone context. And Publicis has a philosophy of the power of one. The power of one is basically what happens when you synthesize different skill sets, different values, different technologies into one combined force. It's like, Captain Planet when they say let our powers combine, and you have
yes,
water, So Publicis has this philosophy of power of one that allows, a whole world of expertise to be made available in a single offering at each point in time. So that's the unique offering it has for businesses in the region and on the continent.
Can you give us a list of some of the countries that you have worked in so far as Publicis Africa, Publicis West Africa, some of the countries that you have worked in?
Look, I've had to take market visits in Burkina Faso, in Senegal, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Nigeria, which are really the biggest markets in the region. But then there are also places like Gabon and Mali and Chad, like smaller economies. But then it's also about creating work that comes alive in all these markets across West Africa.
Wow, that's impressive. From Publicis West Africa, we're still in an interview with Mr. Benjamin Iyan, and he's a branding expert. We're going for a quick commercial break. This is Africa's Next, Mentoring Africa's Superpower Generation. I also want to say thank you to the audience for this tuning and our viewing from the various platforms. My name is Makomi. We're going for a quick commercial break. When we are back, we continue our discussion with our guests. Stay tuned. Remember, you need to send a message Africa's Next SPG, Africa's Next SPG on our various social media platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram page, and also on YouTube, indicating the mentor you would like to be paired with to learn from. Stay tuned. We are back to continue the conversation with Mr. Benjamin Iyan. You're still live on Africa's Next.
Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next SPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
This is Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation. We are grateful to our sponsors, Break the Silence and Voice the Nation. And I want to say thank you to a special audience for joining in and tuning in into the various interviews. My name is Emma Cummins. So today on our seat, we are interviewing Mr. Benjamin Iyan. Remember, I've been saying this, remember to go to our various social media platforms. That is Facebook and Instagram, and also on our YouTube channel, Africa's Next SPG. Africa's Next SPG, indicating the mentor you'd like to be paired with to learn from. Still on the other side is Mr. Benjamin. Yeah, sir, welcome back from the commercial break. So we are continuing the conversation, and we are taking it to a different level. I think 2020 has been hit by arguably the biggest pandemic in a very long time. Has to be the COVID-19, also known as coronavirus. We would like to know how coronavirus has affected the industry and what you think should have been the appropriate response by government and the organization and other staff members relating to COVID-19.
Well, COVID has definitely made a big splash everywhere. Where advertising is concerned, to a great extent, it depends on your client list. Let me explain. If your primary client is in the tourism industry, you are hit very badly, because you are just the reflection of the business context of your clients, honestly. So if you are in an agency that most of your clients are in industries like bars and hotels, etc., who have been hit even more, and the aviation industry, there'll be a lot of retrenchment and a lot of situations. If your clients are, however, in the FMCG, the fast-moving consumer goods, things are bad but relatively better, because you notice even with Corona, there was a spike in demand for food you can stock in your home, like groceries and food and things like that.
Okay.
So brands that produce these things haven't felt the impact of COVID as much as the others, even though they have. Yeah, so agencies that work for FMCG companies aren't as hit as agencies that don't. In the Ghanaian context, there have been quite a number of agencies who have had to either cut salaries, retrench staff, or take other drastic measures. So there's no escaping it. Everybody has taken a fair blow from the situation.
Working from we're working from home, and it has become a norm now. Now, most business within this time are sticking to stay at home. We can work from home, just like how we're even running the interview right now. Before COVID-19, I'm sure we would like to meet and do it one-on-one. But with COVID-19, we have now been made to work from home. How has that experience been, managing your creative art staff and manage your major advertising companies from across different locations just from your house? How has that one been?
It's been very difficult, and it's been peculiar to advertising. I explain.
Okay. I
saw someone put on social media that if after this lockdown you go and ask for leave, then you are some way. The truth is, if you've been in my industry, you need leave after Corona, because it's been harder work when we were working from home. Because what you need to realize is, immediately brands are hit by this reality, communication solutions need to be churned out very quickly. Things that were not in the scope of work need to now be considered, strategically analyzed, and then produced and implemented in record time. Because there's no point in putting out communication when it's too late and irrelevant. And you're talking about multiple clients wanting the same thing at the same time. That's a lot of pressure. So it's made it necessary to be able to manage your time, even though remotely. Work a lot with the team over the internet, and then deliver to clients and present online and get works approved and then executed with innovative tech means like stock photography and stock footage. So it's not been easy working from home. The good side to it is it has helped with a little bit of work-life balance, but even that is a scam, because we tend to be doing a lot more hours from home than we did when we were in the office. Because in the office, when you shut down at 7 or 8 and you come home, that's it. But at 10 o'clock working from home is still a work day. Saturday still feels
there's no shutdown.
There's no shutdown. Sunday feels like a work day. So it's been something else.
So taking a look at what's happening with the whole COVID-19 working at home, people are also making argument that when we come back from all this work at home, stay at home thing, we can still continue to do the work at home, because one is subsidizing the office workforce, employing more people as a result of COVID-19, because a lot of people have been laid off. So now you do a lot of more work when you are not in the office. Do you think it would be a good move to go, or you think we should still stick to going back to the norm where you go to the office, dress up, go to the office, or we should think about other blessings or positives that the COVID-19 has brought away for us?
Honestly, before COVID, many of the multinational companies had started taking steps that were leading to work from home, because most of even if you look at the auditing firms, the top four like PwC and KPMG, etc., have a structure where they have designed their offices for 70% occupancy. What that means is they have facilities and chairs for 70% of employees, knowing full well that at each point in time, at least 30% of your employees are either working remotely from a client place or from home or something. And this has been a policy that was already in motion before COVID. What COVID has done is accelerated. So it's now even more relevant to consider how it is for people to work from home. It's still premature to rely on that as the permanent way of working, because the nature of some of the things we do require that sometimes we have to be at one place. So it's the right balance between what amount of work can be done remotely and when you need to come in, especially when the team needs to brainstorm, because brainstorm is a kind of thing where you feed off the energy of other people. And so it's a little difficult to do that remotely or over the internet. And therefore, a few functions in the agency will have to continue to be done in office, but there's a lot of other things that can be done remotely also.
Wow. So you believe that there should be a balance between working from home and also working in the office, and that will make it, that will bring that synergy to bring out the best in people working.
Yes. For sure.
Wow. That's very deep. That's very, very, very deep. We still are live on Africa's Next. We are interviewing Mr. Benjamin Nyanda. He does a fantastic job. He's a branding expert. He works with a lot of big companies. Next to Ghana, as well, also MTN, Airtel to Go, PZ, a lot of companies. Remember, this Africa's Next, mention Africa's Next Superpower Generation. We want to thank you to our sponsor, Bring the Silence and Voice to the Nation. I want to say thank you to our audience for tuning in. We're going for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we still continue our conversation with our guest for today. When we come back, we are talking about his entrepreneurial part of his life, the part where we mostly don't get to know. This is where we're going deeper into his personal entrepreneurial skills. We learn a lot from that side. Please go to our Facebook page and also our Instagram page. Go to our YouTube, subscribe, Africa's Next SPG. Africa's Next SPG. Go there, send us a message indicating the mentor you like to be paired with to learn a lot from. Still live on Africa's Next. My name is Emma Comensa. Quick commercial break. When we come back, continue our conversation with Mr. Benjamin Nyanda. Still live on Africa's Next. Mentor in Africa's Next.
Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next SPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
We're still live on Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation. We want to thank you to our sponsors, Bring the Silence and Voice to the Nations. Also, want to say a big thank you to the special audience for tuning into our interview for the day. My name is Emma Comensa. We are back. We are speaking to Mr. Benjamin Nyanda, and I've been saying this, and we keep on saying it, that it's a connection that we are building. So we need you to go to our various social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. Go there, like the page Africa's Next SPG on YouTube, subscribe to the page, send us a message indicating the mentor you would like to be paired with to learn a lot from. That's the most important part. Send us a message indicating the mentor you like to be paired with to learn a lot from. Let's get back into the interview with Mr. Benjamin. And sir, welcome back once again. This time around, we are talking about your entrepreneur endeavor. Tell us more about your private entrepreneur endeavor.
Well, on the side, I do a lot of consultancies for civil society organizations, NGOs, and small and medium-sized enterprises. I do it under the umbrella of Adventures, which is just is a combination of advertising and adventure put together.
Adventures.
Yes.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah, and I started a blog on advertising using that name, and it stuck with me, and so I decided to use it. But I run that side business as a way of providing value to organizations who may not be able to afford, the services of very top-notch agencies. Or I try to make that sort of value more accessible to them. So that's what I do on the side.
Wow. So what was the business model for Adventures?
It's really quite simple. It's not complicated. It's about a brief that has a specific need from a client primarily, and that ends up getting a lot of attention, which ends up translating into business, which ends up translating into recommendations, which propagates itself.
So when did you start with your private and entrepreneur endeavor? At what age did you realize that you needed to do something on your own?
Well, it's been quite a while, only that it was sporadic. It was not systematic. Obviously, the point where I was only able to start giving real value in this field was probably 4 years ago, because even though I'm still learning now and will always learn, it was at that stage I realized that I already had enough to offer that was very needed in most businesses, and therefore started making myself more accessible to the people who were interested in this sort of relationship.
Starting your own business, what are some of the major challenges that you have passed through?
Look, there's one of the good things about advertising, I'll tell you, is when you're able to build your strategic acumen. Because advertising is about creativity, it's about strategy, it's about people management. Okay. And being able to understand all three is immensely beneficial. So when you understand the need to be strategic and provide strategic value to your clients, you see how you can apply it to your own business. And the most strategic thing you can do is to be very practical about how you navigate entrepreneurship. You need to do it in a way that mitigates your losses. You need to be pragmatic, meaning if you have a current stream of income, you always need to have a cost-benefit analysis to everything. You need to be able to give your A game at your employment, your job. At the same time, you need to also have a plan for how you rise in your career. At the same time, you need to understand how that feeds into the entrepreneurial agenda you have, whether it's in terms of building your network from your existing client base or their recommendations, or how you plan to move. Because if you don't do that and you move too quickly, you realize that you find yourself wanting. And so it's about knowing the right time to do specific things and pull the right levers to ensure that you're getting good value for your time. Yeah.
Wow. After 4 years of being in business for your private endeavor, that's Adventures, what is the next step for Virtus? Are you ready to take up the bigger market? Are you ready to move on beyond the reach of the country to other parts of the world? Are you ready to build an academy to train mediapreneurs?
Look, anybody who reaches a certain stage in an agency always has to think of what next. In my position, with the kind of experience I have, there are very few options available to me. For example, I can think of going in an expat role and working abroad. And there's a lot of market for that. There's a lot of offers that come through. You'll be surprised that, you may always dream of working as an expat, but then offer comes and you realize that it means you're leaving your family, and then suddenly it's not an easy decision to take anymore. So there's that, and there's good money when you're an expat. So
very, very good money.
There's very good money as an expat. So it also lets you evaluate what your motivation is, because if it's only money, you definitely jump quick. And so that's an evolution point for if you have reached a certain stage in the industry. The other one is to start an agency on your own. Now, I recommend a lot of caution in doing that for reasons that I've written about. But where I come in personally, in terms of what long-term intentions I have where Adventures is concerned, I would like to ultimately be in a consulting position where the same value I'm giving to multinational companies like Nido, like Unilever and for PZ, etc., I can make available to Ghanaian brands or to indigenous African brands. And what best case scenario I think about is being able to provide a kind of value that directly translates their transition from an indigenous business to a global business. For me, that's the best case scenario. And there are few clients I have with that kind of potential currently that I work with every now and then. So it's going to be, they're probably now too small fishes for a big agency, but then I see potential for them to grow into household names across the continent and globally.
I think we need to be grateful for you coming to understanding the plight of the various individuals who can't afford the big corporations, and understanding them and making sure you provide something to aid them to get to that global level. As an entrepreneur, you made, as we are talking about your challenges you've passed through, you made a lot of points. We just want to know, what are the major constraints as a young African trying to build a career for yourself? What are the major constraints as an entrepreneur from Africa trying to build a career? Some of the things that may stand as be a stumbling block for us achieving aim.
So I have a pet project. I'm in the middle with one of my big clients, Diageo, Malta Guinness, and we are running the Celebrate Your Own campaign. And the client is excited about this and its impact for their business. We've already finished the first half of it, and it's had massive impact on the Malta Guinness brand in Ghana. And we're in the process of the phase 2, where we are identifying young artists and giving them the opportunity to design the Malta Guinness label for their 30th anniversary. The insight that triggered that campaign is that most Ghanaians feel that Ghanaians don't support each other. And therefore, we said celebrate your own is the idea. And this is true. Most entrepreneurs face the situation where the people they need most support from, they do not get. And entrepreneurship is not a journey that is easy to do alone. You need all the support you can get. So the absence of support is a major problem. And on the other hand, is that sense that you need permission. I feel like in Africa especially, there's that sense that, oh, I need my pastor to give me permission to dream big. I need, even me, myself, I need permission to be ambitious. Yeah, and we tend to wait for this permission. It never comes. entrepreneurs need to surmount is this sense of waiting for permission and also getting support from the wider community.
As somebody who has worked in a lot of countries across the base when it comes to West Africa, how do you see young entrepreneurs taking their business intra-trade relationship between other African countries? Do you think African young entrepreneurs should start dreaming of that? Do you think we should do that when it comes to trading between countries, let's say Ghana, Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire? Do you think it's a good move?
It's a good move. It's a matter of timing, you see, because if you do it too soon, you become a liability. If you do it too late, you miss an opportunity. But there's a concept called the T model. The T model says that you need to be very good at something and then have a general sense of expertise at quite a number of things. Now, when you have a core value to offer, you can then enter meaningful conversations with other people. That's the right time. But if you are too eager to do industrial, inter-country sort of collaborations, when you haven't finessed the value you have to have, you may just end up slowing things down and cluttering situations. Yeah.
I think that advice is very clear. We don't need to rush. We need to relax on that. Make sure you build a good brand here before we think about moving beyond the borders of the country. One of the other major problems of Africa is self-sufficiency. We have been crying for that for a very long time. Maybe recently, we launched the Ghana Beyond Aid. What is the value proposition of your industry in making sure we get to a level where Africa can be self-sufficient?
The best thing advertising can do for Africa is to make Africa appealing to Africans and to make Africa desirable to Africans. And a country that has really done it well is Rwanda. It's a branding journey. Of course, there have been many fiscal policy innovations. There have been many real estate innovations and industry innovations, but then there's also a story being told. And that ability to tell a story in a way that makes you more endearing to other people and makes them more eager to support you with their money is the work of advertising. It's the work of branding. It's the work of marketing communication. So when we get to the point where we can be proud of what we do, proud of who we are, proud of the businesses we innovate, to the point where we support it wholeheartedly, that's the biggest gift that branding and communication can give to this continent.
Wow. I think this is perfect answer. This is one of the best answers. You're talking about the Rwanda bit, and it's extended now. They even sponsor us now. If you look at Arsenal JC, they have visits Rwanda. That's the best sponsorship you can ever get. I'm hoping that very soon Ghana does some.
Yeah, and you see, you have to do it strategically. If you have your message on an Arsenal jersey and they come and there's dirty things all around, you've just wasted an opportunity. One has to feed the other. The attention to you has to be met with the preparation to receive the attention, and that's where we need to get things right.
Okay. I want to know one thing that we do in Africa. Do you think we understand the concept of entrepreneurship? If you can also give us some insights on how Africa approaches entrepreneurship, we're very much grateful. Do you think we understand the concept of entrepreneurship?
I think we've been entrepreneurial since our historical starting. A farmer is an entrepreneur, a hunter is an entrepreneur, because it's making means for yourself using the gifts and resources available to you. Where we fall short is scalability. We tend to think of ideas that have some sort of life in the short term, but in planning how to scale it to the next level where it reaches a tipping point, that's where there are issues, and that's where a lot of effort needs to be put into. But as to being entrepreneurial, I think we have quite a lot of those.
We all believe that we have quite of those. We're hoping that we can put that to the level where we want to put Africa to. All of us, our dream is to push Africa to the global stage, make sure entrepreneurs from the continent get to the highest level they can get in their various industry. We're still having a beautiful interview with Mr. Benjamin Inyan, and this is Africa's Next. We are going for our last commercial break. Remember, Africa's Next is meant in Africa's superpower, Africa's Next superpower generation. Also want to say a big thank you to our sponsors, that's Break the Silence and Voice to the Nation. Also want to say thank you to you, the audience, for tuning in constantly to listen to Africa's Next. My name is Demakow Mensah. Then to remember to visit our various social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, get to our YouTube channel, Africa's Next SPG. Africa's Next SPG. Go there, subscribe to the page, Facebook and Instagram, like the page, send us a message indicating a mentor you'd like to be paired with to learn from. It's very, very important. Send us a message indicating a mentor you would like to be paired with to learn from. Go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll be doing the last part of the interview with Mr. Benjamin Inyan. Stay tuned. We're back after this.
Africa is on the precipice of a breakout onto the world stage in a way and manner that has never happened before. And at Africa's Next, we are poised to enable this advancement. We believe in mentoring the next superpower generation of entrepreneurs to enable them push Africa onto the world superpower stage. At Africa's Next, we are pairing seasoned mentors, industry experts and professionals, policymakers and social change advocates, etc., with upcoming entrepreneurs across Africa to offer mentoring opportunities. Mentees stand a chance to access funding after successfully completing their mentoring program. Join the discussions on our social media handles at Africa's Next SPG on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and be part of our privileged entrepreneurs who get to be mentored by the world's best. Welcome to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation.
Welcome back to Africa's Next, mentoring Africa's next superpower generation. We want to say we are grateful to our sponsors, Break the Silence and Voice to the Nation. Also want to say a big thank you to our special audience for constantly tuning into Africa's Next. We're still live on Africa's Next with Demakow Mensah. Remember to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to that, Africa's Next SPG, Africa's Next SPG. Our Facebook page and Instagram page, Africa's Next SPG. Go there, put out a comment telling us, send us a message telling us the mentor you'd like to be paired with to learn from. Please do that for us. Let us connect entrepreneurs to young entrepreneurs who are now coming up, who now want to take Africa to the higher heights Africa needs to get to. We are an interview with Mr. Benjamin Inyan. Sir, welcome back once again. Now we want to talk about Africa's Next. You are one of the mentors that Africa's Next has solicited to help young entrepreneurs wanting to go to media and publicity. What do you bring onto the table?
Well, so there's this, you may have heard about the left brain and the right brain sort of analogy, where a right brain person, or one side of the brain means you're creative, another side of the brain means you're strategic. I think one of my strengths, which has made it possible to rise in a very competitive industry over this time, is the ability to be both strategic and creative. When you have a strategic acumen and you can be creative, you tend to think holistically, and it's a very key strength to have. So it's something that I deem as very precious, and it's something that is able to cultivate. So it's value that will be good to impart in somebody.
We just can't wait for the mentoring sessions to begin. And as we are talking about mentoring, what should these upcoming entrepreneurs who would like to come into the industry, what should they know to better equip them for the industry?
They should know that the most important thing, look, at the end of the day, after all the fanfare, how successful have you been in solving your client's problem? And solving a client's problem means selling a product or doing something that translates into that. And sometimes that basic truth is hidden in a lot of fancy words. But at the heart of it is, how well do you understand people? How well do you understand them enough to influence them to behave differently? That's it.
Wow. So the young entrepreneurs who want to come into the media and media publicity is basic, something simple. Ability to understand the client you are working with. Constantly, I'm sure you have heard us talk about the fact that various mentees who are listening to the show to go to the various platforms, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our YouTube page, and send us a message indicating the mentor they would like to be paired with. People who come to our page to choose Mr. Benjamin Inyan as their mentor, what should they expect from you?
Well, to be honest with you, it's basically everything you've just heard. It's one, I believe that young people should be ambitious, because I'm very ambitious. Two, I believe that we need to identify the unique value we have to offer, so that we are always important in a room of conversations. You need to have a distinct value you give in a room of, in a room where conversations are taking place. And so these things, these tenets, these principles, these disciplines, these things I've had conversations with you about are the things that have defined how I operate and how I approach tasks, briefs, and objectives, and which is what I have to offer.
We just can't wait for the mentoring sessions to begin, and I encourage everybody watching this to go to our pages and go there and type Mr. Benjamin Inyan. I'm sure you'll be blessed with a lot of creative ideas he has. So we are wrapping up on today's interview. We would like to talk, before we go, we want to talk more about your private entrepreneur endeavor, that's Adventures. Tell us more, if there are contacts, if there are various social media pages you can go and follow, where it's located, offers the kind of product you offer to the market.
So Adventures is a B2B kind of business, and it's a niche business, because maybe this comes back to the question you asked about the model. It's not the kind of thing that is looking for the longest client list. No, it's about being. Adventures gives me the opportunity to be very selective about the businesses I partner with and provide value to help them reach the next level. In my line of work as creative director at Publicis, I have less control over that. I love the clients I work with, but there are some that I don't probably agree with everything the business stands for. In my private affairs, I have full control. So I'm able to, and because I think it's important to be ethical in business, and I have strong values in that sense. So Adventures allows me to do that. It allows me to get in touch with businesses that have a certain level of ambition and drive and vision and energy, and then connect with those ones and then elevate them to the next level. So it's a combination of a passion and a business for me. And that allows me to be quite selective. And the fulfillment that comes with being able to do that is undescribable. And so it doesn't have a website, it doesn't have a location like an office setting, because my full-time job is a creative director. So the time I'm able to make to consult for these businesses I identify is precious. And that's why I'm excited to be able to then identify the specific kind of businesses that I would like to add value to for them to reach the next level.
So can we get like a social media handle where we can go there and connect with you, where we can also, those of us or those who are watching the interview who like to patronize Adventures, where they can get to connect with you?
The most ideal platform would be LinkedIn, and you could just search for Benjamin Inyan. Yes, you can just search for Benjamin Inyan. And that's really where to go. I'll give you an example. 2 years ago, I did a job for the USAID, they had a project, the Advanced Project, which was focused on agric. And they wanted to understand why Ghanaian poultry farmers did not prefer locally made soy meal for their fowls, and rather preferred imported soy meal. Now, doing this job, of course, had good financial implication, but it was great for me to travel to Kumasi, to Brongahafo, to speak with real farmers, go to their farms, see the fowls, understand the business and why they make the decisions they make. And based on that, come back to my client and say, this is the reality. This is what we can do if we want local soy meal to be patronized by local poultry farmers. And then see them take this recommendation into implementation phase. It's a strategic partnership I'm very proud of, because it has the potential to also impact this country and businesses in this country. And that's really where my passion and where Adventures loves to play in.
Wow. A man passionate about the work that he does. You will never get this in anywhere apart from Africa's Next. And our mentors are here to make sure they inspire you, they motivate you, they teach you, they mentor you to get to the highest level they have attained. So we are grateful today for the interview.
My pleasure.
So we have been speaking to the regional creative director of Publicis West Africa. He's also the man behind Adventures Ghana, and he loves his work very, very well. He has something that says he loves the strategy. Chris inside that makes him star. This is the man I'm talking about, someone who is very passionate about his job. Also, thank you to Mr. Benjamin Eyan for joining us today for the interview. Also, want to say a big thank you to all the audience who are tuned in from various platforms, Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. We are very much grateful. Also, want to say thank you to our sponsor, Voice to the Nation and Bring the Silence. You guys are very, 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 very special to us. We are grateful for your help. Our heartfelt thanks goes out to our production team, the staff and the crew, everybody who played a major role, making sure Africa's Next constantly is on our screens to inspire young Africans to get to the highest level. We are very much grateful. Let's keep this in mind. Go to our Facebook page, go to the Instagram page, like the page, invite people to come and like the page. Go there, put out a message indicating which mentor you would like to be assigned with, which mentor you'd like to be paired with to learn Africa's Next SPG, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and send us a message indicating the mentor you would like to be paired with to learn from. I want to say thank you once again for tuning in. I'm going to come your way same time next week with another exciting interview with another incredible mentor. My name is the McCall Sir, and this has been Africa's Next, where we are mentoring and empowering Africa's next superpower generation. Thank you for joining us today for our interview.